It helps a lot when we know how to keep some things under check in our lives, and especially those that could make or break, our livelihood, our respect, our being in some places, whether it's workplace, whether it's, in different gatherings and so on. And one of the things that we stand a better chance of interacting well with people, of staying better as neighbors, colleagues, family members, and so on, if we keep under check, if we always have it under control as much as we can, is anger management. Hello everybody, and welcome to my always all-inclusive world, where today I would like us to share a thing or two about anger. Some of the triggers of our anger that we need to know, so that then we always look out for them, and just some of the consequences that come with failure to manage our anger. And like someone keeps saying, you never win by losing your anger. So karibu. Now, in the simplest of language, anger is just that emotion. Anger is that reaction to something, something that has either been done to you, or actually failure of something being done to you. Now, it's interesting that, during just my reading and my, wanting to know a bit more about this anger thing, that actually we have two types of anger. We have constructive anger, and we have destructive anger. So for the purposes of this particular episode, I would like us to look at the destructive one, the bad one, the bad side, if not kept under, under management, if not kept under check. Now, most of the time, actually, like, destructive anger originates from a component of fight, flight, or freeze instinct. So ukiona kitu inafanyika, una jam, you get mad at it. You either want to fight, you either want to attack it, you either want to walk away from it, or you just freeze for a moment. You don't even know what to do. Now, it will help a big deal if you'll be very intentional with wanting to know the triggers that make you, flow over with anger, if I can call it. Triggers of anger are very personal. That means you have to make a very individual effort to want to know what makes you flip over. Because what triggers my anger might not necessarily be what triggers you. What triggers my spouse might not be the same thing that triggers my mom, and so on. And therefore make a very individualized effort to want to know what things or issues actually make you, almost like lose your anger, so that then whenever you see them or you sense them coming your way, you have your antennas out to make sure they are contained. Now, some of the triggers of anger that really are fairly common to people, but again not like to everyone, will be things like unattended mental health. We all have gone through life, and life has beaten us in different ways. Some of us have moved over the life's beatings to a certain level. Others think we have, until maybe we are reminded of it, or we see someone else going through that, and that just brings back the memory, and that is enough to be a trigger to our anger. So it will help in case you have any mental issue, mental health that probably is, still keeps coming once, wherever, like, something reminds you of it or something happened. Like, try to get help on that. Mental health is very, very important, and sometimes just lack of attending to your mental health is enough to actually bring you down. So unattended mental health is one of the triggers of anger in some people. The second trigger is actually hunger. Some of us are terrible at managing situations when we have an empty stomach. And like they keep saying, a hungry person is an angry person. Maybe that statement couldn't be any truer. So you want to also just check, in case you are that person who gets very jumpy, who gets very, just short with people whenever they are hungry. Work on that. Have something to just fix. Have a quick sugar on you to just manage your hunger, so that then the hunger pang does not get the better part of you. Kama ni hiyo mapera, kama mapera in the village inapatikana, have that guava, miwa, just a candy, something that some sugar that will just make you, still stay with reason, because honestly, hunger and anger just don't go together very well. Okay. Unnecessary attention to some things can actually make someone snap, can actually trigger anger in some people. Say for example, actually something like, some attention that comes with, say for example, some conditions. Say for example, I stutter. Stammering just has a way of drawing some unnecessary attention. And if you're not very, very careful with that repeated and so on, you just realize that I might get to a place and just you saying something to me about my stammering is enough to trigger me. For example, like I'm trying to finish a statement and you laugh at me, or I'm trying to make a statement and you're mimicking me, unarudia what I'm trying to say. Or I'm trying to finish a conversation or a statement and you kind of quickly finish the statement for me, as if to insinuate like I'm taking too long, or something like that. Just that unnecessary attention is enough to trigger someone, to just flip over with their anger and so on. So even when you're in the same space with people struggling with some conditions, we have people who just struggle with things like, drooling, or just, having their mouth stay open most of the time. We have people who say, for example, have the twitching eye condition, which I have covered. Again, when you have time, look at my channel. It's one of the episodes I've covered about the twitching eye. The stammering, like I'm talking about, and I've covered something about stammering. Please don't try to like laugh at them, to like make a joke out of that. That enough can actually trigger someone to just lose their anger and so on. So yeah, unnecessary attention to people's struggles can actually, trigger that. Varying views on different subjects like politics, religion, race, and so on. When you're discussing or talking about some of these things, you need to also be very sensitive, because some people, especially those who've been on the receiving side at one point, can easily, be triggered with such discussions, and it might not end up well. So again, you want to be very careful on the subject, on the issue you're talking about. If you're in a group, something like that. Loss can be a very good trigger of anger. Loss of a chance, loss of that business deal that you were very sure, it was going to go through, and now you've lost your time, you've lost your money, you've probably lost your name, something like that. That is actually enough to trigger your anger. And you see, we've heard of people who, like, someone lost a business deal and they ended up like, killing their entire family, killing themselves. We handle things such as loss very, very differently. And yeah, lack of proper handling of loss is trigger enough to actually cause some distraction. Okay, threats, some people don't take threats very well. Like, someone will tell you, threatening me is one thing, threatening my family is a totally different thing, and that is enough to trigger that person to do something when you just like try to threaten them or trying to threaten their family. So yeah, even just a threat is enough trigger to some people. Abusive language can also be a trigger, whether that abusive language is being used on you or you witness it being used to someone else. that is enough to trigger someone. So you also want to watch your language. And especially this world is so big, and so is the language issue. Some words are as normal as anything in this different space, and they are not as friendly and as respectful in a different space. So again, be very conscious about the space you are in, about the language you're saying, you are using, and so on, because yeah, just abusive language can be a trigger enough to make someone lose their anger. Disrespect, whether you are disrespecting me or I witness you disrespect someone else, is enough to trigger me to lose my anger, and so on. You know, misinformation. That's why, like, when you get some information, please don't act on it. Don't react just after you hear that information. Get more information about it, get clarifications, because sometimes just misinformation is enough for you to trigger, and by the time maybe you are getting full information, the harm is done. You know, the damage is done, if it's death, if it's destruction, and so on, just because it made you lose your anger. So yeah, misinformation is weapon in itself. Always try your best to confirm some things, to confirm some information before you react on them. So guys, in short, just knowing the triggers that make you flip over, that make you lose your anger, can prevent an anger outburst, hence preventing destruction that can really be bad. So be very intentional, be very active, be very, what's the word, be very quick to want to know what makes you flip over, what triggers your anger balance, so that you always have it under control. Okay, so that's what I thought of sharing on this particular issue on anger and its triggers. I hope it helps someone. You know, just make sure you try your best to keep your anger under control, because yeah, lack of keeping it under control can be very costly. You don't want people to avoid you as a neighbor, you know, just because whenever you lose your anger, like everything in your presence like suffers, including human beings and property. You know, you don't want parents to withdraw their children from playing with your children because of your anger. And when you're angry, you beat your children, you throw them up, you know, you throw them in jail, you know, or on the roof, or you harm them just because you're angry. You don't want parents to withdraw their kids from playing with your kids, because for all we know, tomorrow when you're angry, you might beat every kid, including yours and the neighbors and so on. So when you look at also the repercussions, the side effects of lack of controlling our anger, you really want to be intentional about making sure your anger is under check. Because again, like I keep saying, we are very relational creatures, we are very relational beings, and that's why you do not want things such as anger to stand in the way of a relationship that would have been useful for you, for your business, for your family, for your children, and so on. And lastly, anger is not age specific, is not race specific, and so on. Anger is across, cuts across all races and all religions and so on. So you really have to be very intentional on actually, you know, making sure it's under wraps. No one is born angry, really. No one is born angry. No community is just a community that was born, you know, with anger in them. No, we learn. Just the way we learn how to laugh at a joke, just the way we learn how to cry when we're hurt, we also can learn how to manage our anger. And therefore, let's be very, very intentional with it, because guys, we watch news. I'm sure each one of you will have a story of how an anger story either was captured at an early stage and it ended well, or how it never ended well because someone somewhere could not manage their anger. So I hope this helps somebody somewhere to just know that, you know what, being angry is human. It makes you human. It's just one of those feelings. But keeping it under control is actually what will make you stand out, is what will make you a better human being in whatever space you are placed. So some of the effects or the consequences, really, the effects of destructive anger, the aftermath of destructive anger include things like, you risk actually having a raised BP, raised blood pressure. If you are not able to actually manage your triggers, manage your anger so that you try your best to keep it under wraps, you actually risk ending up with raised blood pressure, which is not good for your health, which can end up disabling you. So yeah, there you go. Bodily harm as well. We have people who, when so angry, when so mad, they actually self-harm. Unapata mtu, someone slit their throat, someone either cut their veins, someone punched themselves, that self-hurt or self-harming could also be an effect of destructive anger. Death, people kill themselves, people kill other people, and so on. People destroy property when they're angry and so on because they just couldn't keep it under wraps and so on. Some people just have mouth diarrhea and they don't control what is coming out of their mouths and so on, and that is very, very dangerous. Some people just become suicidal, and so on. We've had cases where someone actually, committed suicide, or someone actually poisoned his or her entire family and killed themselves as well through poison and something like that. So that's just how bad destructive anger can go. It can leave some stain of destruction that can actually be avoided or at least minimized if we can only keep our anger under check. I'll see you in my next episode, and in the meantime, please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you're my first timer. And for my returning subscribers, asante sana. Let's keep spreading this gospel of just awareness on matters, disabilities, and what we need to do to actually, make our surroundings and our spaces safer and better for everyone, whether or not we live with a disability.